It's 8:35. So we're going to go ahead and get started. This will be recorded, and so it's something that you can come back and watch later. Or if you have somebody else who would like to watch this recording, it's something that Caitlin will get the link out to us, and you guys can pass it on to and share it. So my name is Bethany Swart, and Caitlin and I are hosting this, and this is the first, I'll call it a coach meet and greet that I've hosted in over 2 years. And Caitlin, I know it's been quite a while since you have as well. And both of us kind of felt prompted at the same time that, you know what, this is something personally that we need and are ready for, and our teams are as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and open up in prayer. And then I'm going to kind of explain to you just the rhythm of tonight, kind of the agenda, and then we'll get going. Okay. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to gather tonight. I thank you for each woman on this call right now. And I thank you for the ones who will be listening to the recording. Father, I just pray that ultimately all we do and say tonight will be glorifying to you. And I pray specifically for clarity for those who are searching and wondering if this is something that you have for them. I pray for just courage to pursue it if it is, and also, Lord, for courage if it's not, if this is something that you aren't calling them to right now. So I thank you just for the opportunity tonight to talk, to share a little bit and to dive in deeper about the work that you are doing here. We love you, Lord. Amen. Okay, so as I said, I'm Bethany, and Caitlin and I actually run two different teams. We are both Beachbody coaches, or I should say body coaches, as we're kind of transitioning to a new name. And there's some really cool things coming down the line for 2023. We won't dive into that tonight, but Caitlin runs a team called Team Redeemed, and my team is called Team Set Free. But Caitlin and I have started working with each other in the last couple of months more, just because we run our teams in a very similar way. We value and prioritize a lot of the same things in our businesses, and we have a very similar mission. And so it's been fun for our teams to get to know each other a little bit in the last couple of months, and really to just work together to do this the best way that we can. So our agenda for tonight, Caitlin, do you pull this up? I've never done it this way. There she goes. This is kind of a new way of doing things for me. Uh-huh. There it is. Okay. So do do I push the button, Caitlin? Do you do it, I think. Yes. Okay, you can go. So we're gonna tell you our stories, and we have very, very different stories actually. So I'm excited for you to kind of hear both of them. We're gonna talk about how you earn money, because this is a real job. We're going to talk about the time commitment it takes and just how to get plugged in, if it's something you're ready to do, or even what to do if you're still thinking about it, or need more information. So you can go ahead. Oh, yes. And if you got questions, feel free to leave them in the chat, and we will go over things at the end. Okay.
All right, and then just for a quick icebreaker for those that are on live, if you could also put in the chat just the answers to these quick 3 questions. Where are you from? Your favorite type of workout, assuming you like one. Not everyone likes to work out, even if they're coaching. And then your favorite food, and it doesn't have to be healthy either, whatever you like. Equal opportunity. So again, where are you from? Your favorite type of workout, and your favorite food. All right, and then I'll move into my story just a little bit. Okay. So first it always kind of surprises me looking at that because yeah, it was almost exactly 6 years ago that I took that before picture. And I'll just give you a little bit. So I started my journey, and within about a month, I was already honestly shocked by like how much progress I had made and how good I was feeling. And it's interesting because I just saw the message that I had sent. I had a little group chat with my sisters and my mom, and it was like exactly a year ago, this time of year, 6 years ago, sorry, this time of year, that I had sent them a message and said, oh my gosh, like I just did my weigh in, total overshare. Like I was so excited, right? And I was like, and I just signed up to coach because I need the accountability, because otherwise I know I would like drop off. Because before joining my group, these groups and these programs, it was really the groups that changed everything. Like I was up and down with my own wellness. It wasn't until I was plugged into these groups that I was like actually consistent. And I strangely loved like sharing in the groups, which is funny because like originally when I signed up, I didn't even know that that was part of it. And then once I signed up and I saw these groups and I started sharing, I was like, oh my gosh, this makes it like way more fun. I'm actually not flaking on myself because like these people are doing it too. And like it was really the community aspect that like made me stay committed and consistent for those first 30 days. And I knew that I needed it going forward. And just to backtrack also a little bit, I signed up to be a challenger with a person that was just barely an acquaintance. Here, I'll put my face on here because it's weird talking to just a bubble. I need to talk to people. They're not, at least can see myself. So I signed up with someone that was just barely an acquaintance of mine from high school. Like I knew of her, but I really didn't know her that well. But I saw her sharing her journey, and she had 4 kids. I only had 1 at the time, and she seemed to enjoy it somewhat, which I didn't, and seemed to juggle it, which I wasn't. All the things. So I was like, okay, well, if I even have half of the results, I remember thinking that, like, if I even have half of the results that she has, I'll be happy. And so, yeah, within 30 days, I was feeling so much better, and I knew I needed the accountability. And so that's when I said yes to coaching. But I had a huge, which I know we're going to talk about a little bit later, I had a huge worry. And that was that I was quite certain that the girl that I had signed up with had already been coaching for multiple years. And like, she already probably, all the people that I knew had probably already signed up with her. She was very successful. And I just had it in my head that like, there was probably going to be no one that would even want to join me. First of all, because I like never shared on Facebook. I didn't even have Instagram. I didn't write, like I wasn't a sharer at all. I was scared of it. And the thought of it was just like, made me want to throw off a little bit. So like I said yes for the accountability, but I was really worried that I would put myself out there as a coach and there would be no one that would join me. And thankfully, I was proven wrong. I will say all those people that like I thought would sign up with me right away, they didn't. Like I thought my sisters, they would sign up, they didn't right away. Like they took time. So like it took a lot of like humbling and learning and growing. Those people came around, but like it was such a good thing for me. Like I found out that yes, I started coaching for my own accountability, and it definitely was that for me. It definitely helped with that. But as I leaned into it, I was highly encouraged to share on social media, right? To have people join me, which scared me. And by sharing, it was amazing how much, not only did I realize that I was working through a lot of things as I wrote, like as I shared, I worked through a lot of things that really were so good for me. And I will also say that like my faith when I started challenge groups was like non-existent. And I mean, I could go on about all of this for hours, but like that was a huge part of me too that changed. It was like I didn't just become accountable to my health and wellness. I uncovered this like whole faith aspect of myself, and I started digging into that, and I started working through a lot of my emotional eating and like so many, you know, demons in the closet that probably would have stayed there had it not been for coaching. Coaching really forced me in such a good, healthy way to, you know, work through things and share things. And by sharing things, I was helping people. And that was another thing that I really didn't think about going into this, like the power of that, like the power of sharing not just the good things, not like just, hey, I lost all this weight, but like throughout the last 6 years, I have, you know, we've downsized and I had another baby, and to share through pregnancy and postpartum, I had postpartum depression and like all of these things that I never foresaw, you know, when I signed up to coach, that I would go through, and stretch marks and like what I looked like at 30 days. I was like, oh, I'll share these. And then I was already a coach for 2 years, had a baby. Then I had all this loose skin and stretch marks. Like, I really don't want to share these, but I've already been a coach for 2 years. So I had to work through all of that stuff within myself. Like, to get comfortable with my body, to love my body exactly how it was. Like I had to walk that walk that I never would have done that had it not been for coaching. So I could go on and on about all the ways that like just leaning into sharing my journey, even though it's scary, how it has like, of course, helped people, and also just helped me, like helped me grow and helped me get more comfortable with myself and make more progress and be more consistent and all the things. And so, yeah, going back to my slide, which thank goodness I have these. So yes, personal accountability was huge for why I started, and it's stayed true to its word. Absolutely more accountable than I would have otherwise been. And I found that a lot in a lot of the coaches that have joined my team too. They've admitted to me that without coaching, they probably wouldn't be as consistent. Not that we're perfect, but when you have people that join you, you show up because you know that they're looking to you to be the example. You don't want, once you have people like that join you, like for instance, when my mom joined me, when my sisters joined me, like I am showing up for them too. Like I'm not just quitting on myself now. I know if they see me quit, they'll be more likely to quit, right? So like that's huge. And then I'll also say, so aside from that, like as I was sharing and working through all this stuff within myself, and also getting messages from people saying like, oh my gosh, thank you for sharing the raw and the real of pregnancy, of postpartum anxiety, of marriage, of whatever it is that I was struggling with. Like it was so fulfilling to me in a way that I hadn't felt in a really long time. When I joined, I worked in international tax as a CPA. And so it's kind of funny because I signed up right before a tax busy season, like the worst timing ever. But like I knew I needed to be accountable through it. So I signed up anyways to coach, and I was like, yeah, I'll just figure it out. I'll do my best. And so my job, like I had been doing that for 6 years at that point, being a tax accountant, dealing with busy seasons and all the things. And like after so many years, like that work just became, to me, it felt really just unfulfilling. I was, you know, making stockholders money. I was, you know, fixing the statements and like checking the boxes. I was doing the things, but I wasn't like making a difference in the world. And I did a lot of international travel with that job. And like the more that I saw of the world and the more that I really like had Avery, my daughter, the more that I realized like I don't want to do this forever. And coaching really lit that fire within me to like make me feel like I'm actually making a difference. Like I'm actually making a difference in people's lives. And it first started just like a physical difference, like helping them lose the weight. But then as my faith journey grew, I also realized like, oh my gosh, like I can help make an eternal difference by helping them like realize that maybe too their emotional eating might be a faith struggle too, or maybe I can start doing Zoom calls in the mornings because I need the accountability to do devotions. Like maybe they do too, and I can help them in that way. Like, so it was just like that feeling of being able to make a difference was so powerful to me. And that kept me going. Yeah, it says like I'm a student 2-star diamond coach. Like last year, my team was in like the top 300, but like that was over like 6 years. Like there was 6 years of work, and it wasn't really the ranks and it wasn't really the pay. It was really just that what really kept me coaching and still keeps me coaching to this day is really the feeling of being able to make a difference in people's lives. And knowing that by doing the coaching activities, I'm helping myself too. I'm keeping myself accountable and I'm growing. I still have so much to learn. I still feel like he humbles me every day and I learn things every day. And it's just been such a gift. And that's why I share. It's funny. I also have to say one last thing, a funny story. I still remember when I told my sister that I was going to coach. Um, she was like, "Oh, you are? That's kind of hard, yeah." And she was like, "Yeah, she knew my upline coach, and she's like, oh yeah, she already has like a really big following. Like you don't have that." Like she was like the doubter in my ear, right? And I was like, yeah, but I just like need it for my own accountability. I'll probably only have like a couple, friends and it'll be fine. And she's like, okay, well, you're not going to be one of those people that like recruits people to coaching, are you? And I was like, no, I wouldn't do that. No. And then sure enough, like a few months later, I was like, after really digging into coaching and seeing what it was and how it was affecting me and helping me in so many ways, I was like, I can't keep this a secret. Yeah, I'm going to tell people about it. And I like totally cringed, like sharing that with my sister. But here I am 6 years later, no regrets. Now I'll let Bethany talk.
Okay, so I just have to say one of the coolest things about being I've coached for 7 years now. And one of the coolest things about being around for this long is being able to see people's transformations over a long period of time. And Caitlin's has always been one of my favorites. And there are several more people that I could name that I won't, but the physical transformations are very, very obvious. But when people are willing to be vulnerable enough and share those spiritual transformations, there's just no denying the really cool work that God has been doing um, in this. And I heard once, ministry is wherever the believer is. And so for me, part of my reason for continuing to be in this for so long is because to me, the secular marketplace and the fitness industry is a place that needs light and just good people. And so that's one of the things that I love about being an older coach, being around longer. So anyway, I'm Bethany. I was a teacher before I became a stay-at-home mom. I have 4 kids. We live in Eastern Wisconsin. I'm married to Tim there in the green shirt. And the other photo there is the last time I was at our annual event for Beachbody. It's called Summit. And so there are several members of our team there in that picture. It's one of my favorite pictures. But I will say I was a very unlikely candidate for this job for a lot of reasons. The first one being which I'm pretty stubborn. And I remember in March 2015 seeing my coach, who was the same coach as Caitlin has. She was a friend prior to all this. I knew her in college. Um, but I saw that she was doing a program called the 21 Day Fix. And I had always been way too proud to invest in a workout program because I knew fitness, I knew nutrition. I didn't need help. I didn't need to spend the money on anything until after I had our second child, Jack. He was born in February. We had just moved. I didn't really know anybody in our community. It was cold and snowing all the time, and I just was grouchy. I was grouchy because I didn't really have any friends around. I was grouchy because I was used to being able to get outside and, just like take the kids for a walk in the stroller. Basically, I just felt so stuck. And something that was so easy for me at one time in my life wasn't easy anymore. I just couldn't get myself motivated to start moving again and start feeding my body well. And so I had seen my friend talk about the 21 day fix and talk about her new eating plan. And after so many weeks of going back and forth, I finally decided to buy what we call the challenge pack and try Shakeology and try the 21 day fix on the DVDs that we had. And at the same time, I signed up to be a coach. And the reason for that is for probably 6 weeks, it might have been longer, I would wake up thinking about some of the posts and, just blog, pieces that my coach had written about being a Beachbody coach. And I loved coaching. I coached high school volleyball and track prior to being a stay-at-home mom. Um, I feel like the Lord's given me just a natural desire to be an encourager. I love to encourage other people. I love to look at their strengths and cheer them on. But the thing that turned me off about this was the social media piece because I wasn't on Facebook. I didn't have Instagram. I didn't even have a smartphone at the time. And so I was very resistant. I'm an introvert and I like being an introvert. And so there were so many reasons why I felt like, nope, this would never be a good fit, except for the fact that I continued to think about it and I continued to wrestle with it. So I signed up to be a coach the day I bought my challenge pack. I had no idea why, other than the Lord continued to pester me with it. And soon enough, I figured out, okay, there might be a place for me here. There were definitely a lot of moments that were uncomfortable. We always say when we do this, you learn as you go. Nobody goes to college to learn how to be a Beachbody coach. Nobody has a degree in this. And for somebody who wasn't active on social media, who didn't even have a smartphone when she started, there was a ton of learning that had to take place in regards to that. But it's amazing when you trust and you just go how the Lord provides your very next step. You might not be able to see more than one step down the road, but one step is enough. And I know Caitlin can attest to that too. The Lord keeps us humble in this, but He also gives us what we need to keep going and take that next step. Um, so my whole kind of how I sum this up in a nutshell. Most of the work we do is done, I call them fit teams. Caitlin, I think you guys call yours a boot camp maybe. But we have these groups where we can build community with people, where we can encourage each other in our health and sharpen each other in our faith. And the beauty of working with this company is the fact that they give us these world-class programs and products, real tools, real solutions to help people in their health, but we get to make it our own. And for us, a big part of that, a big part of making this a lifestyle and making it meaningful is also incorporating faith, because physical wellness and spiritual wellness go hand in hand. Um, and so that's one of the things that I've loved most over the last 7 years is just being able to invest in these monthly groups that I get to run, and not only seeing people make strides in their physical health, but also deepen their faith. Um, and yeah, that I guess I'll say this too. When I started coaching you guys, I had no idea why. And so a lot of times as coaches, we talk about our whys. Why are we here? For me, it took a while to figure that out. It truly was, I'm going in blind, Lord. I just know what it feels like when you're prompting me to do something. And I'm going to trust you to help me figure it out. And my why has changed and evolved a lot over the last 7 years. And so I encourage you, if you're not sure exactly why you're here, if you're feeling like, okay, these two girls can get up and give, their stories, or the coach who invited me here tonight has a story. I don't really know what my story looks like. It's okay. I didn't have a story either when I started. And I didn't know why. It was one of those things, and you know it too, when you're stepping out in faith and you're trusting that God is going to fill in the blanks that you have there, and bring purpose to what you're doing. Okay, Caitlin, you can go to the next one.
All right. So Bethany talked a little bit about what we do as coaches, but I'll just explain a little bit more. So there we go. The first thing is showing proof that the products work. So that's effectively, again, we are not perfect, and honestly, perfection isn't relatable. So we don't want you to be perfect. We just want you to do the best you can and share that. And yeah, like I said, a lot in my first story, like the accountability piece was huge for me, and just sharing about it helps you stay more accountable just by nature. Two is, again, sharing tips, encouragement, and your journey along the way. So first, you're working on yourself, and that isn't just physical either. What I love about Beachbody is they also want you to work on your mindset, which we call personal development. But even corporately, they definitely realize that it's not just physical health that's important, especially as a coach, like your mental wellness, your positivity, your can-do attitude, all of that is so, so important, which I will say was another huge transformation for me. Like, it wasn't just faith, it wasn't just physical, my mindset, it's amazing. Like, I'm way more positive, I am way more open, I'm way more loving, like all of the part of that is God too. But I love that they help us work on that too, our mindset. So one is working on yourself. Two is just sharing about it. You know, these days there's lots of different ways to do it. Of course, there's social media, which we talked about already, Facebook, Instagram. I know some people are on TikTok. I'm still not. Some people have blogs. I don't. And I do want to say too that I think one thing that is important that is often overlooked is just like the people that you actually know in real life. Like, my team is one of those like old school teams where like we talk to people that we work with, like we talk to our family and friends, not in a pressuring way, but just sharing what we're doing, because they'll be curious, they'll ask you questions, and you know, those people will probably want to join you too. So it's not just like social media and finding random people that you don't know, right? It's just sharing authentically what you're doing with anyone that's interested. And then three is hosting virtual accountability groups. And Bethany talked a little bit about that. And there's so much freedom in that. Another thing that we both love is that Beachbody gives you tons of tools. I mean, they will give you like content for your group if you want pictures, posts, they have everything if you want to use it, or you can make it your own. You can do, there's total freedom in it, which I love. And as Bethany mentioned, a lot, both of us have kind of used it as a stepping stone for helping people in their faith as well. Yeah, and I will also say that I know for me, I don't know how Bethany does it, but for me, I often will just welcome any of my new coaches, especially, to like just plug their people into my group, especially right away. Like, we understand what it feels like, especially if you're still working full time, or you know, are going through ups and downs of life or whatever. Like, it's really nice, especially when you're starting out, to know like you don't have to do everything out of the gates. You don't have to do all the groups and all the posts and everything. Like, lots of people will start in our groups, and if they have a friend or family member that want to join, they get plugged into our groups, and they just kind of maybe start a message chat with them to help support them and keep them accountable. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And then, yeah, the fourth one is just inviting others to join you. And I will say, for sure, at the beginning, that scared the living daylights out of me, the thought of like inviting people. I will say that there's a not so great way to do it, that we've probably all gotten those messages before, where we're like, you don't know me, you don't like, this wasn't a genuine message, right? Like, and I will say that, like, we have been successful in the past because we don't do that. We are very genuine and authentic, and I'm the one who sends rambling voice messages to people, and they know it's me, they know I've been watching. Like, there's just so many ways to do this that actually feel good, that we always say it's more of like just making sure people feel welcome. And that's what we do. We just want to make sure that everyone that is watching us knows that they're welcome. And that's really our job. Bethany.
Sorry. I am just gonna slip in a little Beachbody history here quick, to go off Caitlin's last point here. So when Beachbody first started, they were not a network marketing company. That's not how they ran. They simply sold their workouts through infomercials. They were selling tons of workouts. However, what they noticed is people weren't getting long-lasting results. And so that is when they made the switch over to this, and having coaches, because they realized, hey, if we can get people to do this together, to do it in community, to have groups, to have people, coaches to lead these groups, this would be a way that maybe we can solve that problem, that people can actually make this a lifestyle and make sustainable changes. And so that's kind of how they made that switch. And I just think that's really neat. And it makes a lot of sense to me that why they structured themselves in this way. And that moves into, this is not a pyramid scheme. I actually don't hear this talked about as much as when I first started coaching. But lots of times people look at something like this and say, yeah, that can't be good. That can't be a real way to work. And I even had family members question me on that, and I had no idea how to answer it other than, no, it's not. I'm really working and this is real. And so I did my research, and as I grew as a coach, I dug into this more because I was encountering this. And so just to clarify, pyramid schemes don't actually provide people with goods and services. There's nothing, which obviously we have fantastic goods and services for people. We actually work. People are actually getting products and programs in their homes. Another piece of this is that in a pyramid scheme, if something crumbles within the pyramid, the whole thing falls. And with the way Beachbody is structured, if one of my coaches chose to quit and cancel her account, or somebody above me chose to cancel and their account, the whole thing doesn't crumble. Your business is a business of itself. It is not dependent upon anybody else in order to function. Okay. The other piece of that is, in a pyramid scheme, nobody under you can make more money than you. And with the way Beachbody is structured, anybody has every opportunity to make any amount of money that they want. There's no I don't know how to say this, but any of my coaches could make more money than me on any given day. So there's a fair chance for everybody to make an income based on the work they're putting in, just like a normal job. Let's see. It's not a get rich quick opportunity, which sometimes I feel I'm not sure what people expect when they come into something like this. But for me, to know it's not a get rich quick thing is a ton of reassurance, because a get rich scheme usually is not a good thing. And so the fact that you actually have to put in work to make money is a very, very good thing. And so I would say, I'm just going to look at my notes here so I do not get off track. Yeah. So this is where I wanted to go more with this too. When you think of starting a business, I will say this, like, if you think of starting a business, people have to invest a ton of money when they want to start their own business. With Beachbody, truly, you can begin your own business with that $15 a month coach membership or business service fee, because you're already invested in your products and your programs. So in that, like there's very little overhead cost to give you an opportunity to create an incredible income through this, if that makes sense. When you think of people who start restaurants or who start a salon or, you know, whatever kind of business they want to begin, there's so much invested in, really your investment is in yourself. For me, that was in that $140 that I spent on a challenge pack with the 21-day fix DVDs and a bag of Shakeology and the portion fix containers. That's what it cost me to start my business, and then maintaining that with that business service fee. Um, so it takes years to build, brick by brick, little by little. There are going to some days you are going to take a few steps forward and the next day you're going to take a few steps back. But like I said, to me, that builds confidence in the fact that this is something that, is built to last. Like it's not just here today and gone tomorrow type of thing, if that makes sense. Um, we're not here to annoy friends and family. I, like Caitlin, my family members were some of the last to jump on board. And at first I was kind of shocked by it. I thought, why aren't they excited for me? Why don't they just, even if they're not, why don't they just want to try it? Like I was kind of taken back by that. Um, but whether it's friends or family or people you don't know, your job is to just show up and share authentically. And people trust people who are willing to be vulnerable and share their story and share just the everyday, the positives, the negatives, the good, the bad, the hard, you know, the successes that you have. And you're not annoying anybody by sharing. People can choose to read what you write, they can choose to listen to what you share, or they don't have to. Our job is to notice people. This was said to me once, and it made a world of difference that when I was looking to figure out how to invite people, because all of us are pretty nervous to do that, you look at the people who might like a post that you write or who might watch your stories on Instagram or Facebook. When you go into a store, um, usually someone recognizes that you're there and they say hello, or they might say, "How can I help you?" And this is the same thing. It's recognizing somebody's presence on your storefront, which is typically your social media pages, and it's interacting with them, and it's always giving an invite. We're not about putting pressure on anybody, but it's letting them know that you're welcome. They're welcome. Okay. And then the last thing, it's not a saturated market. Um, I think sometimes it's easy to think this when you might see lots of Beachbody coaches or hear about people signing up. But the truth is, my circle of influence is my circle of influence. I don't have the reach that I would that Katrina has, or that Caitlin has, or that Emily has, or Hannah, or Aaron. All of us have different people within our realm, people who we can influence. And there are always people out there that you can connect with that I can't. Um, hang on here. And so I think it is important, like, to continue to invite. The other thing is, a lot of people who might not be ready today will be ready in a week or in 2 weeks or a year from now. And so um, I think it's important to always continue as a coach to continue to share your story, because there are new people always who are listening, and it takes people time to want to commit. And so it kind of goes back to this isn't a get rich thing, and giving it the time that it needs in order to work. Okay, Caitlin, go ahead.
All right. And then we talked a little bit about this, but really, like, I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible in how you earn money. So, yeah, in my past, I was CPA. So, like, finance is my thing. I love numbers. So, I've always been one of those people that understood it really quickly, but that doesn't mean I made money quickly with it. I just understood it. Like Bethany said, it takes time to build. But the first main way that you will earn money through this opportunity is through the first two I'll start with: commissions and challenge pack bonuses. That's effectively people buying anything from you related to Beachbody. It could be Beachbody On Demand, it could be Body, it could be Shakeology, beach bars. I mean, it's funny because back in the day, it was like there weren't a lot of things that we sold. It was like DVD, that was back in the DVD days, DVDs and Shakeology. I think Energize was a thing, but there wasn't much. Now we have like so many things. I mean, it that's one thing I do like about coaching is it helps me branch out and try new things. But I mean, between beach bars and performance and Shakeology and first thing, last thing, and like there's a lot more opportunity even now than when I started to be able to share things that might benefit someone. And when you start as a coach, you get your own kind of website, storefront, and anyone who buys through your links, you get the commission on that. And it ranges anywhere from 25% to 40%, depending on what it is. And then like challenge packs, like what Bethany mentioned, that most people start with, that you get usually a higher percentage on. And then the next 3, 4, and 5 are all based, team cycle bonuses, matching bonuses, and star diamond bonuses are all ways that you will make money when you have a team of coaches, which again, when I started, I didn't even think that I was gonna have a team of coaches. Like I was just wanted to have a couple friends join me, right? I will say that it happens for most of us very organically and without us trying to like recruit people. It really, as most of you probably are on here, we're probably our challengers in our groups probably may see some of, you know, your story in mine or Bethany's, that you just, you know, felt good about yourself. Maybe you're feeling the tug to share with someone else. Maybe you want the accountability, right? Like whatever the reason, you're feeling the tug that you might want to share this on and coach as well. And assuming you say yes, then we would step in as your upline coaches and we would train you and we would help you. We would do, you know, help you learn how to write and post and do things on social media and start groups. And like I said, you're open, you're willing, we are willing to have you have your people plugged in and all those things, because we're sharing and helping you start your businesses. Then we are also compensated on part of your sales. So it doesn't come out of your pocket at all. It's just something on top of that Beachbody sees like, oh, you're helping other coaches get started. So they help and compensate us for that. And I'm really glad that Bethany did talk about how it really does take time. I mean, you might see I'm sure, I know there's other income progressions out there that are like, boom, all of a sudden one year they just like hit 6 digits and whatever, crazy numbers. But I know for me and Bethany and most of the people on our team, it was really every year it grew and grew as long as you remain consistent in the activities. And yeah, it works. And I love how Bethany said, like, it shows you that it is legit, like the fact that it takes time. And as you grow, your income grows. And I mean, I also wanted to touch on, which I can't see. I keep trying to move around the pictures so we're not covering it up on the recording. But I did also want to talk about how you have the opportunity to earn like trips and what we call swag. I don't know if anyone calls it that anymore, but in the past many years, it was like every few years or every few months, if you hit certain benchmarks of helping, you know, 2 or 3 new people get started, you would get like a t-shirt or you'd get sunglasses or you'd get, you know, bags or whatever. Now, this coming year, they're doing more of money bonuses instead of things with like the body logo. But either way, you're compensated on top of those commissions and stuff. Beachbody really tries to continue to recognize, and I would not be surprised if going forward, if around like launches and stuff, they might do like, hey, if you help, you know, a couple people get started with a launch, you might get something that's branded with it. It just wouldn't surprise me. And then honestly, trips were one thing that I'll just talk about a little bit. One thing that really got me to get consistent in coaching was the possibility of earning what we call the Success Club trip. Once a year, Beachbody Corporate hosts this Success Club trip, and it's usually international. This year's is Mexico. Last year's was Punta Cana. My first year was a Caribbean cruise. And to be honest, if you don't follow me, like my marriage was really rocky for many years. And so, and even though we had the money, like I knew that we're way too frugal. Like we would never spend it on a trip. Even if we had it, we would save it for a merit for like Avery's wedding, or, that's just the kind of people that we are. So like when I heard that by helping like 3 to 5 new people every month, that I could earn this trip for me and my husband, like I was all in at that plan. It really helped me stay consistent with coaching, trying to earn that trip. And I did. And yeah, so just know if that is in some way connecting with you, like that opportunity is available too.
Okay. So what's the time commitment? This is something that isn't set in stone. Everything that I'll give you here is just kind of a ballpark range. It's different for everybody, but new coaches, I would say 5 hours a week is probably average if you're wanting to establish a business, and you're practicing those daily habits that are going to move you towards building your own business. However, Caitlin touched on this, and I will again too, because I think it's really important, coming in as a new coach, knowing that you don't have to run your own groups. You don't have to write your own content. If you are a coach on one of my teams, or Caitlin had just mentioned on hers, we even encourage you to just add the people that you are working with to our monthly groups, to just start to kind of get your feet wet, and so you don't feel like you have to take it all on at once. Your job as a coach really is to notice your people and to encourage them and to be a resource for them. And Caitlin mentioned just having, you could have a text thread with them, just making sure that you are taking care of the people who said yes to you. That is your number one job when you start coaching. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the expert. We want to lead by example. We want to lead by our commitment, but also know that I think it's great right away to let your people know you're a real person too. And we're not striving for perfection. We're striving for excellence. And excellence means we're giving our best each day. And some days it's not going to be much. I know for myself recently, as I've become more consistent with some different things again, I've had some days where it's just been hard, weeks when my kids have been sick, weeks when I'm not sleeping, and to be able to just come as you are, each day speaks volumes too to the people you're helping, that you are a real person. You don't have it all figured out, and you're not going to pretend like you have it all figured out. So yes, we want to lead ourselves in healthy choices that we're making and habits that we're setting, but also don't let that make you feel like you can't be a real person, because that is equally as important. Um, Consistency with the right activities is key. We say so often, this business is simple. It's not always easy. Um, and Caitlin talked about being proof of the product, doing personal development, inviting people. Those are all really important things, and they're not hard. It's just getting into the habit of doing them regularly, because consistency over time will pay off. Commit to being here 12 months from now and build trust with your network. I think this is so important because so many people get discouraged, I would say, within the first 4 weeks to 12 weeks, that 1 to 3 month range. You see a lot of people throw in the towel, and it's really hard as someone who's been here for a long time, because you can see the bigger picture and you can see the potential, and you just want more than anything for that person to stick it out and see it through, because you know, that it works, that you need to trust the process. And so I can stand behind that wholeheartedly. Commit to being here a year from now, and just giving yourself time, taking the pressure off. I've got to do this quickly and make it work this fast. And no, just give yourself that time to figure it out, to find a rhythm, and to start building a strong foundation. Coaches earning full-time income are working 20 to 25 hours a week, and this was very true for me. I would say I started coaching in 2015. Um, I would say it took 4 years for me to be making a full-time income, and I was working 20 to 25 hours a week. Um, I will also say too, I started off slowly. Um, Once I realized the potential and once I really figured out my why, because remember, I didn't have that in the beginning. I wanted to work more, and I was getting up in the early morning to work, and I was putting in hours. Saturday mornings were my work time for a long time. I would get up at 7 and work until 11 or so. Um, and I think about that though, you guys, and before I was doing this, before I was home with my kids, I was a teacher. And in fact, I was a teacher in South Dakota. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with what teachers make, especially in the state of South Dakota. It's not a lot, but I never imagined when I decided to stay home that I would be able to exceed what I was making in the classroom at a fraction of the hours. Because when I was teaching, my school day came home with me every night. I worked a couple hours every night at home. I was in my classroom until 4:30, 5 o'clock every day. I was there by 7. And so to be able to provide for my family in that way, and it was an unexpected thing, it wasn't an income we were ever planning. And being able to be home with my kids was just, it's still, it blows my mind that it's possible. Um, so yeah, I think that's all I have on that, Caitlin.
I was so like enthralled in your story. I was like, yes, yes. I was like, oh yeah. And I know we're already like getting deep in our time. So I'll go over these as quickly as I can. One, I don't have time. That, I mean, everyone feels at one point or another. I definitely did. Like I said, when I started coaching, I was going into a tax busy season. Like I did not have the time, but it was something that, like I mentioned earlier, like it was fulfilling. It was a positive outlet for me. It was important to me. So I made the time. Like when I worked full time, it was like lunch hour, even if it was a half hour, it's like, oh, do something. Like it was like, I loved it so much that whatever time I could give it, I did. Like I stopped watching, I was watching reality TV for like an hour or two every night before coaching. And it's amazing. That probably helped my mindset a lot too, not watching Bachelor and all this junk, 2 hours a night, to instead be working on my mindset, helping other people, working through my feelings. Like, anyways, I could go on that rant for a long time. I know some people don't watch TV, you still don't have time. But I will say, like Bethany mentioned before, we suggest if you want to really build a business, it's 5 hours a week, which if you break it out, ideally that's 1 hour a day, 5 days a week. And anyone who really feels like they don't have the time, I always suggest just to do a time audit. It's amazing what happens if you go throughout your day and you actually write down, like, this is the time that I wake up, this is what I'm doing here, this is what I'm doing here, because you'll probably find little pockets of time, and it doesn't have to be like a solid hour. A lot of people work in what we call like pockets, where it's like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. And it's amazing, again, those pockets of time that you can find when you're really intentional, and how much you can get done if when you open your phone, you're really focused on what you're going to do when you open it. 2, nervous what people will think. That was me for sure, and most people too. I will say that it gets a little easier with time, not because you magically stop caring, but because you realize the more that you share how helpful it is for other people, and you just, what naysayers will say just doesn't matter in comparison to the impact that you can make and the people that you can help. Like that, you realize is so much more important. Like you're not going to sacrifice not helping people because of what someone else might think, right? So your why as it gets stronger and you start to gain even those little testimonies of people that have messaged you, and that you've helped, like you start to just not care about what those other people think that haven't joined you yet. Um, Nervous about posting on social media. It kind of goes into the other one. I will say I still have posts that like make me sweat when I share them, but it all still comes down to like, if I feel, now I realize it's like, if I feel led by God to share something, I trust that he's going to use it for good. And anything that I go through that's hard, like I write about it and trust that it's going to be used for good. So even though sometimes it still makes me nervous, I still take those steps of faith, and little by little, he, like Bethany said, like he gives me just enough to encourage me by a message or by a devotional or something that I read that I'm like, yep, that was what I was supposed to do, and solidifies me in continuing to do that going forward. Spouse is skeptical. How do I get on board? That was definitely me. My husband was skeptical, and honestly, like the only thing scheduled for years and years and years, he still won't drink Shakeology. He still is like, oh, it's funny. Sometimes I think he does it now to like ruffle my feathers because that's just our relationship. But really the thing that finally got him to realize like this is legit is when like I started making decent money doing it. Like for a long time, I was like, it's my passion project. It's my mission. I just am doing it for fun. And he's like, okay, and gave it like zero legitimacy. But when he started, and for a while, I would actually get paper checks back in those days. And so he'd look at them. And once they started getting a decent size, he's like, oh, she might actually be doing something with this. So I will say with spouses, especially males, a lot of times, the income is what finally gets them around. But I will say also just like being honest with them about like why you want to do it is huge. And for me, like I told my husband for the get-go, like I need to do this like for my outlet, for my fun time or whatever. And he could see how it was really helping me be more positive and be more patient and just get in a better headspace and take care of myself. And I feel like most spouses, once they start to see those kind of changes in you, they'll realize it's good for you. And if they love you, then they'll want you to keep doing that, right? So that's part of it too, being honest with them and all of that. Fear of failure. Oh my gosh, I am like a perfectionist of perfectionists. Like I absolutely was terrified of failing. That also almost made me say no to it. But what I like to, 6 years out and looking from far away, what I like to tell people is like, there's no way you're going to fail, because what you'll get if you actually plug into coaching and do the basics, you will get so much back. Even if, like, let's just say worst case scenario, which I have yet to see happen, worst case scenario, like no one joins you, nothing like that. If you would go through the coach activities, you would still gain so much, again, for your mindset, for your heart, for your community, for all these other things. Like you wouldn't have failed. I commit to that 110%. Like you won't feel like you failed. But I will say, I have confidence that with our trainings, you will be able to reach people and find people that need your help. And you'll have success in that way too. And then the other thing, not at my goal body yet, I always like to tell people that that's a good thing, because people really like to watch the whole journey. They like to watch you work through the ups and downs of still, making progress. And honestly, most people aren't inspired by the perfect body that never has ups and downs. They put you as like a unicorn that like, oh, they're just that way. That's not me, right? So it's not about being perfect. It's not about being at a goal body, especially now that we've changed our brand. It's not even about beach bodies anymore. It's just about being yourself and sharing where you're at. And wherever you're at, you'll find people that connect with it and are inspired by it. I know many of us have gone through pregnancies and all that. There's no GoBody there for many, many, many months. And it's just about being honest and sharing where you're at.
Okay, so next steps forward. And this is something that you'll talk with the person who invited you here tonight, with your coach. But next steps, if you're ready, you'll enroll as a coach if you aren't already a coach, and you get your enrollment fee waived. Um, Pretty simple in that regard, pretty painless step. Um, then your coach will supply you with training, and basically it's just next steps forward. And honestly, the trainings have changed a lot over the 7 years I've been doing this, because the business has changed. Beachbody has changed. Beachbody is continuing to change. But one thing that I think is really important to me when I'm getting coaches going is giving them just very simple next steps, in like 3 next steps. What do I do after I'm enrolled? And one of those first steps usually is sharing your story, and thinking through your story, because lots of us until this point haven't thought that we even have a story to share. Clearly, if you are here, somebody has seen potential in you, and somebody um, sees you as being someone who can have impact in this circle. And so for me, that's kind of where I lead coaches, is after you're signed up, let's think through your story and be able to talk about that and write about that a little bit. And then you share. And then after that, as far as specifics goes, that's something you determine with your coach, whether you're going to lead your own groups or you're going to share and plug people that you're helping into your coach's group. With that, you will have an online office, and that's something too that your coach will take you through and kind of show the things you need to know. Remember, this is a learn as you go thing. And so there are things that you don't need to know right now, and we'll make sure that you're getting the information you need as you need it. Um, Start taking action. Don't procrastinate. Again, for me, that's having my coaches think through their story. What do you have to share? Because you do have something. Sometimes that's really hard for us to see in ourselves. And so I really like it when you're able to talk through that person who's been mentoring you, because they've seen you from an outsider's perspective. They've watched you come into a group. They've seen your transformation begin. There's like I said, there's reasons why they saw something in you to bring you here tonight. And then plug in and be coachable. This is so important. And I would consider myself a pretty coachable person, except remember the fact I told you I'm really stubborn, and I am in some things. And one of the things I was so stubborn about was social media, and I was determined to figure out a way to do this without it. And I truly believe it can be done, but my reasons for not wanting to use social media weren't good. They weren't good reasons. They were just stubborn reasons. And so that was an area that I had to like just humble myself a little bit and be like, all right, here I go. I'm going to figure this out, because it's not about me. And that's another thing I'd encourage you with too, is when things got scary and I started to feel fearful, it was because I was looking too much at myself. It was because I was thinking too much about me. And when I remembered that this isn't about me, it never has been, it never will be. Um, and you start thinking about, like Caitlin had said, you start thinking about those lives that God can use your story to help other people. You forget about the naysayers, and you forget about your own, just your own fears and your own limiting beliefs. So I would say out of these 4 things, for me, number 4 is the most important. Plug in, be coachable, and just be willing to trust the process, and give it that 12 months, for sure.
All right. And then why now? Because if you're a procrastinator, like I call myself a professional procrastinator, you need to know why now. And I mean, if you know the health and wellness space, of course, like we're coming up on the new year. So like everyone is going to be recommitted to getting healthier. And so like, if you would join now before December, like it would be great for you to start kind of learning and sharing and starting to build that trust with your network before the new year comes. Because I know sometimes we think like, oh, December is crazy, like I have holidays and everything. Yes, but anything that you can do now to start sharing and learning is going to be better than later. And believe it or not, like now again with Thanksgiving and Christmas, like you're going to be seeing a lot of your friends and your family. You're going to be maybe they're already noticing changes in you. If you're newer in your journey, they might already start asking questions. Like there's so many people, especially during the holidays, that aren't feeling great about where they're at, and they might be open already to ask about what you're doing. So if you would share about it earlier rather than later, you could start having those conversations. And just again, opening those doors. And then 2, which I'm so pumped about, is if you did MBF or MBFA, you know, Megan Davies and how crazy popular that program was. It was like 2 years ago already. She's coming out with her next program called Sure Thing in January. Well, December, it starts being available. A lot of us are starting our test groups in January, but really like anytime you have a new program launch, especially one where people are naturally interested, I always call my program launch test groups. People like that idea of committing and getting great results. Things like that just help you launch your business and have something to share about right away that sometimes doesn't feel as scary because you're sharing about a program or you're sharing about something that the team is doing together. So that's just another thing to think about. And then number 3 is, we alluded to it a little bit, but yeah, I mean, Beachbody is no longer even, we're slowly transitioning from Beachbody to Body. And I will tell you, like, most of us that have been around for a long time are so excited about this change. I know when I share about it with my customers, they're so excited about this transition to not, I mean, most of us were never about Beachbodies to begin with, but the fact that we have like new trainers and new programs that are just really all about helping people love their bodies and be healthy, also mentally and physically. Like I could go on about all the things that we're doing to help people mentally and physically and emotionally, but it's just something that's so cool. And we're just starting to share about those things. So as a coach, if you join now, you'd be able to really dig into those as we roll them out, and you'll know them so well. It'll be a lot easier for you to share about the more that you know about them. Oh gosh. And I thought about, as Bethany was talking, I was thinking about this slide and like, what am I going to say about this? Because it's like hard to even put into words. I'll say this first picture on the left was my very first live quarterly event. And I was scared crapless. Like I didn't even know if I don't even know if I called myself a coach yet. Like it was just so awkward. Like it just didn't feel like it fit. And I didn't even know if I wanted to do it, if I was going to do it, but I was there. And then this other picture is from this last summer when I walked across stage being recognized. And it was just like in that moment, I was like, I don't think I ever would have guessed that that would have happened. And I remember walking off the stage and telling my friend, like, I still don't even feel like worthy of having done that. And I just want to encourage you throughout all of this is like, so many of us, like Bethany said, like, we don't even know why we're feeling the tug, and we have no idea where it's going to lead. I never would have guessed that I would have quit my job. I never would have guessed that we would have downsized. I never would have guessed that I would find my faith and all the transformations that would have happened. Like I never would have guessed any of that would have happened because I said yes to coaching. So if you don't know why you are feeling the tug and you don't know where it's going to lead and you don't need the money right now and you don't that's okay. That's totally okay. Most of us don't. And most of us, it does change throughout time as to why we're here. But I would just encourage you that if you feel that tug, to just start taking steps forward. Just like I like to say, coaching is a lot like our wellness journey in that, like, it's not about perfection. It's not for waiting for the right time. It's not for like figuring it all out. It's just like our wellness journey in that, like, something is better than nothing. Like, just like, having water and having a healthy snack is better than waiting until, you have it all figured out. Coaching's the same way. Like, you just, if you feel the tug, you just start taking action and see where it goes. Because yeah, it probably will be nothing like you expected and hopefully a lot better than you even realized. And then I'll end with this slide. I keep trying to move this little panel and it's not like, oh, there we go. Okay, there we go. Anyways, I wanted to say that, again, I talk a lot about like the changes that happen in me, but when I look back, it's like these women are just 3 of the many that have went through my groups in the last 6 years. And I chose these 3 in particular because all 3 of them have been, of course, had amazing physical transformations, but if you'd read about their stories, if you talk to them, you would know that their transformations go so much deeper than the surface. And all of them also are coaches on my team. And they have all told me at one point or another that they would not be even as remotely consistent in their own wellness if it wasn't for coaching. And all of them were also very timid and scared to start coaching. All of them have impacted lives. And it's not just these 3, like there's so many. And I guess I feel more passionate about it because I know them personally, and I know how scared they were, and I know how uncertain they were. And just to watch them grow in their voices and grow in their confidence and grow in their consistency. And again, to have them tell me that if it wasn't for coaching, they wouldn't be where they are today. Like that's why Bethany and I get on these calls, because we've seen, not just in ourselves, but in others, the power that this process has. And we can't keep it to ourselves. We just have to encourage you to just try it out and see where it might lead you. But do we have anyone with questions? I know we've seen a couple of things come across the chat. It looks like they're just so sweet. I don't see any questions. But anyways, yeah, if you are watching this recording or even watching live, like, I just encourage you to reach out to whoever invited you to this and just share whatever's on your heart. Even if you still have questions, if you still have uncertainties, just start that conversation and go from there. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know this was a lot longer than we probably hoped or imagined. But yeah, thank you. I don't know if Bethany wanted to say anything else.
No, I don't have anything else either, Caitlin. That was a good closeout. Thank you guys so much for being here. So very, very grateful to have all of you.
All right.
We'll
Bye,
see you
guys.
guys. Bye-bye.